Welcome to IPSS, your go-to resource for mastering the art of academic writing, research, and presentation skills. Whether you're struggling with your thesis formatting, refining your research questions, or learning how to present your work with confidence, you're in the right place. We provide clear, actionable tips and insights to help you succeed on your journey to becoming an established researcher. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now, let us delve into today's topic. Common comments from supervisors and suggestions for improvement. The discussion lacks focus. The written sections do not align with the topic, highlighted problems, objectives, or research questions. This is commonly observed when the literature review contains unrelated content, making the research overly general and less meaningful. For example, a literature review on the topic, the impact of urbanization on freshwater availability, includes discussions on the history of urbanization or the global use of water in agriculture, which are not directly tied to the research objectives. Refocus the discussion by revisiting your research questions and objectives. Include only literature that specifically discusses the relationship between urbanization and freshwater resources, such as case studies or reports highlighting urban water management. Evaluate the comment for specificity. Analyze if the ambiguity mentioned is due to a lack of clarity in your explanation or misinterpretation on the supervisor's part. Example. Response. Could you point to specific sections where you feel the argument is unclear? I'd like to ensure I address this effectively without losing key elements of my discussion. Rephrase without digression. If the supervisor's comment reveals a genuine lack of clarity, refine the section to clarify your point, but stay true to your original perspective. Example, if discussing urbanization's impact on water quality, and a supervisor finds your connection between industrial waste and water pollution ambiguous, rephrase with industrial growth, a byproduct of urbanization, often leads to increased discharge of untreated waste into water bodies, directly impacting water quality. This aligns with the study's focus on urban environmental challenges. Propose alternative approaches. If you agree ambiguity exists, suggest a revised approach without diverging from your research objectives. For example, I see how this section may seem unclear. Instead of focusing broadly on industrialization, I could narrow the scope to a case study on urban wastewater treatment to better illustrate the point. The study is too broad, the study lacks specificity, and content included is irrelevant to the main idea. For instance, not everything about water should be included in a study focusing on water conservation in arid regions. A study on water conservation in arid regions discusses water policies in tropical climates or global water scarcity statistics without focusing on arid regions. Narrow the scope of your study and focus on regional case studies, policies, or conservation techniques specific to arid regions. Ensure every section contributes to answering your research question. The work is outdated, the sources cited are older than expected, especially in fields like science or technology where recent data is critical. For example, citing articles from the early 2000s in a study about renewable energy innovations, use recent peer-reviewed journal articles from the last 5 years, incorporate books, websites, newspapers, and current industry reports to reflect the latest developments. When conducting research, particularly as a student, it is crucial to stay current with advancements in your field by regularly reviewing recent literature. For example, solar panel technology has seen significant developments in the past 5 years, such as the emergence of tandem solar cells that surpass traditional silicon-based cells in efficiency, or innovations in perovskite materials for cost-effective energy solutions. Articles published within this time frame, such as those detailing advances in bifacial solar panels or quantum dot technology, should be prioritized to ensure your work remains relevant and impactful. Remember, including older references risks presenting outdated information by the time you complete your dissertation. Constantly revisiting academic databases, attending conferences, and engaging with leading researchers will help you integrate the most up-to-date insights into your work. You must explain your research. The study lacks personal interpretation. It merely states facts without providing insights or analysis. For example, a paragraph discussing the negative effects of deforestation might end with, "Deforestation leads to habitat loss," without offering personal insight. Instead, add interpretation and link facts to the research objectives. For instance, write "Deforestation leads to habitat loss, which exacerbates the extinction of endemic species." This aligns with the study's goal of understanding biodiversity loss in tropical rainforests. The work lacks critical analysis. The content is rephrased from sources without critical engagement. And there is little questioning, agreement, or comparison of ideas. For example, citing 3 articles that state deforestation reduces rainfall, but failing to discuss variations in the data or discrepancies in methodologies. To improve, critically engage with your sources, compare methodologies, challenge conclusions, or highlight gaps in research. Discuss why some studies show stronger correlations than others and how this impacts your study. The work lacks proper flow. The writing lacks coherence. Sentences and paragraphs do not connect logically, causing confusion. For instance, a paragraph ends abruptly with, "This shows deforestation is a critical issue," and the next paragraph begins with, "Rainwater harvesting is a common practice." To maintain a logical flow, use transitional phrases. For example, write, "Given the critical effects of deforestation on water cycles, innovative solutions like rainwater harvesting are increasingly important in affected regions." Avoid the use of casual expressions or social media language and slang phrases. Informal language is used inappropriately in research writing. For example, "We can't ignore how deforestation messes up the environment." Instead, replace casual phrases with formal language. Write, "The environmental consequences of deforestation cannot be overlooked." Minor corrections, spelling, punctuation, spaces, etc. Errors in grammar, punctuation, or formatting reduce the quality of the work. For instance, research shows that deforestation impacts the climate or climate change affects habitats. Proofread your work carefully. Ensure commas, periods, and spaces are used correctly. Use tools like Grammarly or enlist peer reviewers for assistance. Clarify before implementing suggestions. If feedback seems unclear, ask for specifics. Could you elaborate on what you mean by this section lacking focus? Are there particular areas I should refine? This ensures you're addressing the issue in a way that aligns with their expectations. Know when to defend your work. If you've made deliberate choices that you believe are valid, explain your reasoning respectfully. For example, I included this section because it provides critical context for understanding the broader implications of my research question. This shows that you have done your research and can impress the supervisor, especially if it brings value to the study. This shows confidence in your decisions while remaining open to dialogue. Recognize supervisors are human. Supervisors might misinterpret, overlook, or misjudge certain aspects of your work. It's okay to gently point this out. "I understand your concern, but I believe this section aligns with the research objectives because..." Trust your judgment. If you've thoroughly researched and can justify your choices, trust yourself. Feedback is a guide, not an absolute directive. For example, after revisiting your feedback, I feel this approach is still the most appropriate for addressing the research gap. Use feedback as a tool, not a rule. Treat feedback as an opportunity to refine your work, not as a list of orders. Combine it with your own critical thinking to achieve the best results. Stand your ground on key points. If a comment challenges a critical point in your work that you feel strongly about, respectfully defend it. For example, you might say, I understand your perspective, but I believe this discussion is integral because it directly supports the argument about the socio-economic effects of urban water policies. Perhaps I can expand or clarify this section instead of removing it. Own your work. Confidence in your decisions shows you've thought critically about your research. Be prepared to explain your rationale in a calm and professional manner. For example, I recognize this could be interpreted differently, but my intention was to highlight the connection between urban planning and resource allocation. I'd be happy to clarify further if needed. See criticism as a tool, not a judgment. The mindset shift here is crucial. Criticism is not personal, it's an avenue for improvement. Supervisors aim to refine your thinking, not tear it down. For example, if a supervisor comments that your methodology is weak, interpret it as a chance to strengthen your foundation, not as a reflection of your abilities. Think, what can I learn from this? Take initiative in refining your research. Don't wait for feedback to address potential weaknesses. Proactively evaluate your work and seek advice from peers, academic resources, or even previous feedback to guide your refinement process. For example, before submitting a draft, critically ask yourself, is every section tied directly to my research objectives? Have I anticipated possible gaps or questions? Build confidence through ownership. Take pride in your work and own the decisions you make. Supervisors respect students who demonstrate confidence and reasoning. If you're critiqued, respond with something like, I understand the point you're raising. Here's why I approached it this way. And this shows both humility and control over your research. Don't be overwhelmed by criticism. Why it matters. Even seasoned researchers face critical feedback. It's part of the academic process. The goal is improvement, not perfection. The strategy will be to break down feedback into actionable steps. For example, if your supervisor says your argument is unclear, focus first on refining one paragraph or section instead of trying to tackle the entire thesis. Use criticism to shape your thinking. Treat feedback as a dialogue. Engage with it critically to enhance your perspective. Supervisors don't have all the answers, and sometimes their comments are opportunities for discussion, not directives. Example, if a supervisor suggests you remove a key section, ask, could we explore why you feel this section doesn't contribute? Remember, this is just the beginning. Criticism is part of your journey to becoming an independent thinker and researcher. Each challenge prepares you for the rigor of academic or professional life. A tip will be to document key learnings from feedback for future projects. Over time, you'll notice patterns in how you can improve without waiting for external input. Receiving feedback like you have poor presentation skills can feel discouraging, especially when it's vague or doesn't come with actionable advice. Here's how you can handle it. Seek clarification. Politely ask your supervisor to elaborate on the feedback so you can understand what needs improvement. Example response. Thank you for your feedback. Could you clarify which aspects of my presentation need improvement? Is it the structure, delivery style, or how I explain the content? This will help me work on specific areas. Self-reflect. Think about your last presentation. Were your ideas clearly organized? Did you speak confidently and at a good pace? Did you engage the audience with visuals or examples? This reflection will help you pinpoint areas you might want to work on. Take proactive steps to improve. Work on the structure. Ensure your presentations follow a logical flow like introduction, main points, and conclusion. Practice creating clear, concise slides if applicable. Improve delivery by recording yourself presenting and reviewing it. Practice in front of friends or colleagues to get constructive feedback. Engage the audience and use examples, visuals, or anecdotes to make your points relatable and memorable. Respond to feedback with confidence. Show your supervisor that you value their input and are taking steps to improve. For example, you could say, I appreciate your feedback on my presentation skills. I've started working on a specific area and would value any further suggestions you might have. I'd also appreciate if you could point out what I did well so I can build on my strengths. Practice with intentionality. Participate in opportunities to present, even informally. For example, present your ideas in study groups or rehearse for friends. Use resources like TED Talks or public speaking guides to model effective presentation techniques. Focus on progress, not perfection. Remind yourself that everyone can improve with practice. Acknowledge small wins as you build confidence. Here's a mindset tip. Feedback doesn't define your abilities, it's an opportunity to grow. Read the guidelines carefully. Before starting or continuing your work, thoroughly read through any documents with guidelines including the thesis manual, style guide, and formatting rules. The tip will be to highlight key sections like font, page setup, margin sizes, and any specific instructions regarding headings or references. Title page style. The title page typically includes the title of your work, your name, your supervisor's name, the date, and possibly the department and university details. Check the exact order and layout. Example, your university might require the title to be in bold, centered on the page, and include your student number. Follow the exact formatting style requested, whether it's MLA, APA, Chicago, or a custom format specific to your institution. Page format. Ensure you're aware of the required page size. For example, A4, margin sizes, usually 1 inch or 2.54 centimeters on all sides, and line spacing, 1.5 or double-spaced. Set up your document from the start with the correct page format to avoid having to adjust it later. For example, in Word, go to Layout, then Margins to select the correct margin size. Use paragraph settings to set your line spacing. The font to be used. Most academic work requires a standard font like Times New Roman, Arial, or Calibri. Also, note the specific font size, typically 12-point for text and sometimes larger for titles or headings. Select the font and size right away and stick with it throughout your document. For example, in Word, choose Home, then Font to set this up. Consistent formatting for sections and headings. There may be specific guidelines for how you should format headings, for example, bold, italicized, numbered, subheadings, or chapter titles. Use the Styles feature in word processors like Word to set up your headings and subheadings according to the guidelines. Referencing and citations. Pay special attention to the citation style you are required to use, whether it's APA, MLA, Chicago, or another format. This includes in-text citations, reference lists, and how to format the bibliographic details. Be consistent with citation formatting throughout your paper. There are reference management tools like Mendeley, RefWorks, Zotero, and EndNote that can help you maintain accuracy. Avoiding common mistakes. Double-check the guidelines for any specific points or common mistakes your department mentions. This can include things like numbering of pages, abstract formatting, or sections like acknowledgements. Create a checklist based on the guidelines and review your work against it before submission. Proofread with guidelines in mind. After completing your work, do a final read-through to ensure that you've followed all formatting rules and guidelines correctly. Ask a peer or use an online tool to help spot inconsistencies with formatting. Thanks for tuning in to IPSS. We hope today's tips have helped you refine your academic skills and feel more confident in your work. Remember, the journey to becoming an expert in your field starts with mastering the details. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, comment, and share with your fellow researchers. See you next time for more advice and strategies to help you succeed. Keep learning, keep growing, and stay focused on your research goals.